Today I'd like to talk about how we notate the 3-notes chord, 4-notes chord inversion by using the figure-based chord symbol. So we're starting with the 3-notes chord root position first. So this is 3-notes chord, C chord, which is chord number 1 in C major. So what is the distance between the base and then the middle? It's a third. So we write number 3 on the bottom here. And then what is the distance between the base and then the top notes? The fifth. So we write number 5 on the top. So that is a complete figure-based chord symbol for 3-notes chord root position. Right? So the most common notation for chord 3-notes chord in root position is just the number. We don't use any figure-based for root position 3-notes chord. And then now let's talk about the first inversion chord. So what is the distance between the base and then the middle? The fifth, all right. And then what is the distance between the base and then the top? 6, all right. And this is the complete figure-based symbol for first inversion chord. So first inversion chord for chord number 1, we don't use number 3. And then just write number 6 on the top. All right, so that's how we notate the chord, the 3-notes chord in first inversion. So now let's talk about how we notate the second inversion chord of 3-notes chord. So what is this distance between the base and then the middle? That's the fourth. All right, what is the distance between the base and then the top? 6. All right, so this is a complete figure-based symbol, and that's exactly how we notate the chord the most common way. 6, 4. So that is the most common figure-based symbol for second inversion. All right, so now let's talk about the 4-notes chord, which is the 7th chord. Let's do the 7th chord of F. F, A, C, E. All right, so what is the distance between the base and then the next note? The third. What is the distance between base and then the third note? Fifth. What is the distance between the base and then the highest note? 7th. All right, so for the root position, we just write chord number and then number 7. So we're just using the top number from the complete figure-based symbol. So that means this is the chord number 4, which is F chord, F7 chord in C major, chord number 4, 7th. So 7th means there are 4-notes chord built in skips on the 4th note, subdominant of C. So that's how we notate the root position of the 7th chord. All right, so now let's turn it into a first inversion by moving the bass note octave higher and keeping all the 3 notes stay the same, and then just moving the bass note higher. All right, and so now we're doing the same procedure. So what is the distance between the bass and then the next note? The third. What is the distance between the bass note and then the third note here? Fifth. And then now what is the distance between the bass and then the highest note? The 6th. All right, so for the first inversion, we're just using the top 2 numbers. Okay, so this is a 4, 6, 5. We don't use number 3 on the bottom. We're just using the top number 2 and 6 and 5. So when you write notating the chord 6, 5, that means it's the first inversion of the 7th chord. 6, 5. All right, let's talk about how we notate the chord, which is in second inversion. So now we're trying to move the bass note octave higher to turn it into a second inversion and try to keep the other 3 notes stay the same. And then the A should be on the ledger line. Okay, right? Okay, all right, so the top 2 notes, F and A. All right, okay, so now let's talk about the distance between the bass and then the next note. 3. What is the distance between the bass and then the third note here? 4th. What is the distance between the bass and then the highest note? C to A, 6. All right, So this is how the second inversion of the seventh chord looks like. So distance between the bass and then the next note is the third. And then the distance between the bass and then the third note is the fourth. The distance between the bass note and then the highest note is 6. All right. So for most common notation for second inversion is 4, 3. We don't use 6, but this is how the complete figure bass symbol looks like. But the most common way notating the second inversion is 4, 3. We don't use number 6 on the top. All right, now let's turn it into a third inversion. So we're moving the bass note octave higher and keeping all the 3 notes to stay the same. Right, and then moving this one octave higher. And again, what is the distance between the bass and then the next note? Second. What is the bass note? The distance between the bass note and then the third note? E, F, G, A, the fourth. And what is the distance between the bass note and then the highest note? E, F, G, A, B, C. 6. All right. So for the most common way of notating the third inversion of seventh chord is 4, 2. Again, we don't use number 6 on the top, but just using the bottom 2 numbers. 4, 2. All right. So this is how the complete figure bass symbol looks like. And then this is how we notate the inversion chord in the most common way.